Well, what do you think? I'm sitting on a tick palace here. Like, seriously, what do these little bloodsuckers actually eat? You know, I always wonder that, especially when I'm up north in the mountains, and there's literally just as many mosquitoes in the air as there is air, and it's amazing because I haven't a clue what they're surviving on. I mean, there's enough mosquitoes there to suck the blood out of half of North America without a doubt, and they're just flying around with nobody but you, and you always wonder what the hell they're eating before you got there. There definitely can't be enough blood going around, that's for sure. And these ticks, these little greasy little bastards, what the hell are they surviving off of while they're creeping around looking for a victim? One of the worst ticks I ever seen one time, I was in Kansas. In Kansas, we were hunting a private property for wild turkey on our way to go to the, what's it called? The National World Turkey Hunting Competition we used to go in, big celebrity thing. And people from all over the country go there, be a bunch of country singers there, met a lot of people. And but anyway, we went and hunted a private property before we went there, and I'm not kidding you, there's 3 of us. I got the camera, I'm running the camera, or maybe I was hunting. Anyway, one guy's beside me, and we were on the ground, sitting on the ground, probably this time of day, mid-afternoon. We're sitting on the ground for maybe 20 seconds, and I glanced over, and the other shotgun laying on the ground had about 50 ticks on it in in minutes. I could not believe it. I'm like, whoa, 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 look at this. It was absolutely amazing. Middle of nowhere, patch on the ground, and the ground was crawling in ticks. So I'm guessing it was some kind of a hatch, right? They must lay a piss load of eggs or something, but oh my gosh, that was disgusting. But we had some kind of a bug spray that we sprayed on our clothes, and the suckers would just fall dead right off your clothing. But I don't think that stuff's legal in Canada. If it was, I'd have it on, I'll tell you what. That's good stuff. I hate ticks. Nobody likes ticks. I've had a lot of them on me in the south, I'll tell you what. I've had a few road passenger hijacked my body and smuggled their asses across the border and came home to Canada from the south a few times in the past too. What's this? What do we got? Let's share away. Second email, Bigfoot Nowhere. Hey, again, if I could encourage everybody, if you want to help out this subject become more acceptable and more of a serious topic, try to lose the words, the name Bigfoot. All right, just please try to lose it if you could. It just takes the credibility away from it, right? They're not Bigfoots. They actually have a few various names that they've possibly shared with the North American natives, the first people, the land here, and other places. I'm pretty certain they've got across to them what they are called. There's a few different names, but that one Sabe keeps coming to mind. I feel a lot more comfortable referring to them as that myself, and then we can keep smashing forward anyway. But and obviously there's a lot more going out there than just these forest people, right? There's a lot more going on than just them, but we got to start somewhere. I'm going to keep smashing forward and giving everybody the knowledge. Hey Steve, I've set this encounter on 6 months ago, but I know that you must be overwhelmed with the amount of emails you receive. I really appreciate you giving everyone a platform to tell their stories and not feel ashamed. First off, I want to say that I'm so thankful for all the time that you spend to post videos. You don't have to do this, but you do anyway. And that shows how great of a person you are. Holy cow. Thank you for those kind words. You're too kind. So I just want you to know that you're very much appreciated, and I'd love to make a hunt with you. That'd be a blast. You can say my name because I don't care what anyone thinks of me. I've had 2 different encounters with this being, but I've not been able to lay eyes on it yet. This is probably a good thing, right? I've been an avid hunter and fisherman since I could hold a rifle and a fishing pole. I've hunted in well over 6 different states. I'm from Louisiana, around Baton Rouge to be exact. My second encounter is what I will tell in this email because the first will take a while to write. Here it goes. I went hunting with my brother-in-law in Liberty, Mississippi when this happened. Now, by now, everyone has heard my first encounter and laughed at me and thought I was making this up. That includes my brother-in-law, whom I was hunting with in Liberty. I killed a nice 8-point buck on our first hunt, which counts as one of the 2 bucks my brother-in-law gets for a kill of the year. Which counts that which counts as one of the 2 bucks that my brother-in-law gets to kill for the year. This is a slow year, and none of the members have even seen a shooter, which is an 8-point or better. Well, after the kill, I wasn't going to hunt again, after the kill, I wasn't going to hunt again and possibly shoot his last buck, so I hunted with a neighboring club who he knows. They shoot 6-point or better. I'm not a greedy hunter, so I wasn't going to kill another unless he was a hammer. But I at least wanted to sit in the woods and enjoy what I like to do, and that is hunt. They put me in a huge box stand called the clubhouse. This stand was sitting on cinder blocks, so only a couple feet off the ground. The weather was in the teens, sleeting and wind blowing 30 miles per hour, so I only opened up 2 of the 4 windows to keep some of the wind out. I had a big food plot on my left and another on my right. In front of me was a wood line, and behind me was a big ridge, so there was no trees around this stand. The ground, of course, was wet and soft, so you could walk easily and not be heard. That'll come into play in a moment. The window in front of me was closed, and also the one right behind me to keep the wind and sleet rain off my neck. And when I say window, I mean plywood that you open with a pulling of a rope. The stand was huge, at least 5 feet wide by 6 to 8 feet long, with a recliner in it for a seat. I saw 6 turkeys coming through the tall grass towards the food plot on my right, so I was just watching them. Now the wind was coming from their position, so they could have never smelled me. As soon as they got to the plot, they all looked in the direction of me, but more behind me towards the ridge. They all started to run the direction they came, and was gone. I sat there thinking what may have happened. Did they see me? Steve, all of a sudden something hit this stand so hard on top, but from the back side behind me. It was so dark in this box stand that you had to shine a flashlight just to see inside. This hit was so hard that it shifted this stand to where it was crooked on these blocks. My heart was beating so fast and my body was numb. For something to hit that hard, I was imagining a buck chasing a doe, and the doe ran into the stand full speed. That was all I could think of, and that may not have been enough to feel and hear this bang on that stand. When it hit it, I guess it either knocked me off the recliner or I melted down to the floor. I just don't remember how I ended up on my knees. I peeked with just one eye out the corner of the side window trying to see behind the stand. I was so scared I would look out and a Bigfoot would be standing there. I may have fainted. I did not see or hear anything come or go, and the ridge was at least 60 to 70 yards behind me. So something had to be fast to run up and hit the stand and then run back. When I could finally text my brother-in-law to tell him what just happened, he said it must have been a Bigfoot. Not long after I read his response, there was a knock on the tree right on top of this ridge behind me. It was so loud, like someone hitting a baseball with a bat. I went numb. The knock confirmed to me exactly what it was. I gathered my things and opened the door and looked around really good. And then I walked around the stand just to make sure there were no limbs laying there from a tree. Nothing anywhere near the stand. I got out of there. Taking a couple steps, then turned 360 degrees, my rifle on the ready, all the way to my bike. Of course, they picked on me, but before that season was over, my brother-in-law was hunting with his daughter, and right at dark, they heard a scream/roar that went on and on for a few minutes. He said it was at least 400 yards away, and no human could have yelled that loud, not even on a loudspeaker playing audio. He did record it, and now listens to Bigfoot stories on your channel every day. I'm sorry this is so long, but I had to give details, or it just wouldn't have been much of an encounter compared to the ones I hear on your channel. Thanks, Steve, and I'm behind you 100%. Would stand with you till the end, whatever that may be. I'll write you my first encounter when I hear this one shared. God bless. Jason Clary, Structural CADD Technician, HDR Engineering Incorporated. All right, man. God bless. Jason Clary, Structural CADD Technician. Jason, thanks for that email, man. And, yeah, if somebody wants to send in a recording what they recorded, go ahead. I'll share it. As you know, after anybody mentions they have a photo or a video or a recording and they mention it publicly through me, you know what the people are going to be saying, right? Share it, where is it? Don't tease us. As far as for me, like I said before, I don't mind if you do or not, but anyway, thanks for that share. And none of you ever worry about how long your story is, all right? If you got something you got to share, just share it, and I'll get it out. And don't ever think that your experience, your encounter doesn't measure up with somebody else's, because that's not what it's about. It's not a competition here. It's not entertainment. This is 100% to get your voice heard publicly. And like I think I pointed out a video or two ago, or however, I'm not sure if the video I mentioned it will be out yet or not while you hear this one, but if you haven't picked up what I'm putting down directly with sharing every single email, this is the evidence that the world needs. Whether your brain accepts that or agrees or not, it's just the way it is, man. If you were to go into any court of law in a somewhat civilized civilization, right? Not a complete kangaroo court, but if you had an actual respectful judge, intelligent man sitting there, even a jury, even 10 juries, and you started marching people through that courtroom one after the other who are not connected with each other from all over the country, and forced every single person that is shared with you through me to go and sit in that courtroom, tell the story, next, tell the story, next, tell their story, next. If every single in that courtroom denied the reality of what's going on out here, after all these good, hard-working, honest people shared honestly what has happened, what they've seen with their very eyeballs, those people in that courtroom I would deem absolutely, I'm trying to be polite, but they're in the wrong field. They're in the wrong place. And they're not doing anything for society, right? Sadly. You cannot deny enough witnesses to frickin' populate a state or a province, right? Or a city. You just can't. Be very, very irresponsible. So anyway, what I'm saying is the proof's in. I'm not trying to prove anything. It's just adding to the proof now. It's making sure everybody's heard. And when every single one of you are outnumbering the people who want you to shut up, that's for sure. So keep it coming. Don't care. It doesn't matter. There's no rating here. It's not entertainment. I'll be getting back to you, man. I absolutely appreciate you sharing with us, all right? And get that other experience in right away. Let's hear it. I want to hear it. And we got your back, man. We got everybody's back here no matter what. Please don't use my name. Hey, Steve, I'm married. The ability to read so many styles of writing and punctuation all lumped into one paragraph. I did my best to make this readable. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. The property where this happened is in the Appalachians, near the Smokies. At 1,300 feet elevation, we got real winters, like down to 7 degrees Fahrenheit, which surprised me for being in the North Carolina-Tennessee border. I thought it was the South. The lay of the land is all hill and dale with big rock formations poking out of red clay and thick hardwood forest. I've heard there is more plant diversity in this rural area than most anywhere on Earth, for moreover than the tropical rainforests. 2 creeks cross the property. Across one of them, deep in the woods, lay 5 massive petrified trees laying on their side. I measured one as 17 feet across the grain. The upper creek comes out of nowhere. In its path down and across the property, it falls about 200 feet in elevation. By the time it meets the bottom of the hollow, it's quite a healthy creek, enough to make water power. I suppose the water in the snow melt is squeezed out to the 2 mountains on either side to make this creek/spring. One November day, I was taking a walk up an old logging road on the property. The place was logged 15 years before. There was still a lot of big 3.5-foot thick trees, and the younger hickory, ash, maple, and oak were pushing a foot thick. So I'm walking along and I see 2 tracks, 2 people walking side by side. It had rained a few times since the leaf fall, and the track of disturbed leaves was easy to see and follow. The track was fresh. I thought, poachers. I followed the tracks leading up to the fields, now unused. Grasses, 4 feet tall, full of saplings. A little bit of deer and turkey heaven. One of the footfalls landed on wet red clay. Just the heel. A naked heel. I could see dermal ridges in the clay. Who would be out here in bare feet in November, was the first thought. It wasn't warm out, and the ground had already gotten cold. I went and got my friend, came back to show her. While we're walking back and thinking, I realized that walking uphill I could not make my heel touch the ground, not even make an impression. I passed that on to my friend, a cop for 30 years, retired. She immediately concurred. We decided humans could not leave heel tracks walking up this hill, not barefoot. Fast forward 8 months. After sitting on it until mid-December, I decided to go up and try to make contact. It could have been some hillbilly poacher out hunting barefoot, I thought, but intuition said different. Intuition also told me exactly where the contact point was to be. At the corner of one of the overgrown fields, the deep woods, creek, and the field all meet. This is where I'll set up, I thought. While tilling a lower field, I'd found the artifact, a golf ball-sized, very dense, hard, and unfamiliar stone that was deeply and well carved. The carved stone, reeking of antiquity, could have been 200 years old or 2,000 years old. I put the artifact in my pocket and went up to the spot. I put the stone artifact on a round boulder, slightly bigger around than a large pizza, and started walking away. Glancing back, the stone looked a little naked, just sitting there by itself, so I decided to make a little teepee over it. I took 3 sticks, 60 inches long, and made the teepee. I figured the wind would knock them over before long. Then I took a small log and smacked a dead tree 3 times, probably unnecessary, and left. What are you thinking? The next day I went back. The stone appeared untouched, but the 3 sticks were gathered together and placed neatly next to the rock artifact. I was amazed. Those sticks should have been on the ground. The chances of them being as they were by mere chance were nil, as the boulder was nowhere near flat. Totally unprepared for a second hasty beginning. All I had was a disposable lighter in my pocket to leave as something new. I'd used the lighter earlier that day. It worked fine. The next day I went up with a 4-pound chunk of natural pink salt crystal, solid as a salt lick. Sold as a salt lick. I figured, well, we all need sodium. I'm a little embarrassed as to what they thought. To my knowledge, they never touched it. From the beginning, I never took a pistol or a phone or a camera. I went so far as to lift my shirt and do a full turn to show I was just a skinny old harmless guy. While doing so, I felt watched, but not in a bad way. The lighter had been turned over, the decal reversed. It could have been a squirrel. For wildlife, we had everything but bears there, I think. The neighbor lady had claimed there were black panthers on the property. Later that day, after coming up the mountain, I had the lighter in my pocket again. I pulled it out and tried to light a cigarette. The lighter was jammed as though the striker wheel had been turned the wrong way. I took a fresh lighter and tried to turn it the wrong way, and though I worked with my hands, I didn't have the strength. On my 3rd trip, all my trips are consecutive, I never missed a day, even in the rain, 15 times. I'll say it here, that going up the mountain was not easy. A mild dread accompanied me as a hollow feeling every time on my way up. I thought if I missed a day, I might not have the guts to continue. On my next trip, I took an abalone shell. Beautiful. Here I see that my Sasquatch journal really sucks. Out of 15 visits, only 2 were uneventful. My journal doesn't reflect that. Take good notes or don't bother. On my next trip, I took the compass and put it in the abalone shell. The next day, I found freshly broken branch, leaves on, shading/protecting the compass. On inspection, the compass had been shaken hard. The one big bubble was broken into little bubbles. I left 5 garlic heads. Coming home that day, I found 14 ticks on me. We had a 2-wheel tractor with a 30-inch flail mower attachment. I decided to mow a path for myself. Mistake number 1. The very next day, at the very of my mowed path, an 8-inch diameter maple tree was knocked over and crossing the path. The leaves of the tree had not even wilted yet. I felt like crap. For only a moment, I considered the amount of force and shuddered. This is a good place to relate that I nailed together a backstop to hold a target and made myself a shooting range up there with way previous to seeking Sasquatch. It was super hilly around there and hard to find 100 yards of clear shooting range. Now you're making me itch because of the ticks. Blech. Every time I went up, I had to pass a scrub oak, 8 inches in diameter, that had been pushed to lean into my line of fire, ruining my shooting range. I felt hurt when I saw the maple blocking my way to the gift spot and said out loud, yelling, "What the F?" I was getting ticks all over me. I'm not a whooper or tree banger, except for the first time. I would cup my hands and do a 2-note morning dove call to let them know I was coming up. I could feel 1 or 2 of them were always there waiting for me, feeling there were 3 of them, Mom, Pop, and an adolescent, whose heel track I saw. The freshly down maple I respected as a line not to be crossed. I carpentered out of 2x10 a gift board with a small shelter and screwed it to the downed maple tree, thus moving the gift spot. The next time I went up, on approaching the clearing, I heard a tongue cluck from one hill, immediately answered by another single tongue cluck from the opposing hill. When I got too close to the spot, I saw 2 doe. I ducked and got out of there. I didn't want to mess up a hunt. The garlic remained untouched, and I put some tamarind and a coconut. The next day the tamarind was gone and the coconut moved. Could have been a squirrel. The coconut was perched on a tripod of 3 screws and hard for a squirrel to move. By now, on the plank, I had pretty glass beads, magnets, a baby doll, a baby gorilla that looked like a young Sasquatch, alphabet cards, and all kinds of stuff. I also had a pigskin pouch that I made to put tobacco in. I roll my own. I put the pouch in the shelter so small it could barely fit my fist. The baby Sasquatch doll went missing the first day I put it out. It was the only non-food item ever taken. It was made of gooey rubber and filled with what I later found to be sawdust, made in China. To an animal with a real nose, it probably stank of chemicals not attractive to possum or raccoon. On one trip, I found a pointy pile of sawdust on the pigskin pouch. The only way I know that could have happened would be to slide the pouch out of the shelter, pour the sawdust, then slide it carefully, preserving the point, and back into the shelter. Later, I found one of the hands of the baby gorilla and ascertained the sawdust came from that doll. The hand showed evidence of some sharp little teeth. The hand was all that was ever found. Back to the coconut. The coconut was out for 2 days, moved maybe, but unmolested. On the 3rd day, I poked a hole in it and placed it back on the tripod. The next day, the coconut appeared untouched, but was totally empty of milk, not a drop. I cracked the shell, pieced it back together, and put it on the tripod. Gone. The next day, but not totally. A large piece of shell was there at the gift spot. Under a macro lens, the image showed that a sharp, thin tool was used to pry off the flesh. I also put out some apples and some raisins. Both remained untouched, so all the activity is not a squirrel, possum, or raccoon. Mistake number 2. The stuff was being subtly moved, so I decided to take a camera up, not a cell phone. The idea being to compare those photos to see what was moved. The next day, and for the first time, the gift board was a mess. Glass beads were everywhere. Nearly all my shit was scattered in the grass, like they were saying, "Oh, you want to see movement?" I tidied up, replaced everything, but the next days were the same. Violence at the gift spot. Standing there over an 8-inch tree trunk at the edge of the dark forest with evidence of violence before me was unnerving. I left a whole intact coconut on the 2nd to last day. It was gone overnight. On the 15th day, I cleaned up my trinkets, put them in a sack, and vacated, never to go up there again. End. It seems my first mistake they forgave. They might know something about ticks, but taking the camera was underhanded, and what little trust was built in 2 weeks was not enough to be forgiven. Wow, that was interesting. I know there's no shortage of people bringing gifts and trading things or bringing trinkets to, I guess what we called, offering up the olive leaf and friendship and, I don't know, wanting to make contact or communicating. To each their own. I'm not into it just because it's obvious to me whatever this flavor of being might be, they don't want anything to do with us. So I'm not going to push myself on them. I just don't have the urge to. I don't need to have a 9-10 foot tall hairy being shadowing me in the timber when I'm out hunting and enjoying my time. I just don't need it myself. I don't want it. I'm not looking for it. But I am out here all the time, and that'll never stop. It's just what I do. As far as anybody else looking to make contact, careful what you ask for, right? Just be careful of what you ask for. Make sure you read all the honest words from hundreds of people here, and take all those words in and work out the averages. See what the average outcome is of seeing or having interaction with one of these beings. Okay? Because on average, it's negative. But anyway, thanks for that share, man. I'm sure I found it fairly interesting. It's an activity you had that I am not interested in doing myself, but I can guarantee you there's a shit pile of people here listening to your email that may be absolutely interested in doing the same thing. You never know. Whoa, that's a long one. Hi Steve, I watch your channel. I'll keep this as short as possible. Steve, I'd like to not share my name or my exact location, not because I'm making this shit up by any means. People here can turn on you real fast, and just makes me sound like a nut or a lower, both of which I'm neither. So to you only in this part, I will tell you my name and location. Okay, so I worked on farms all my life till a road crash killed my best friend, and I lost all of my... Okay. All right. Thanks for that. Appreciate it. Unfortunately, I feel so bad. I feel bad for that accident you had, man. That's really sucks. All right, let's get on with the story. Anyway, Steve, I'll let you share my story. No name or location, but can say Scotland. Like people would say, Scotland with Bigfoot, you're mad. And all those you're mad on all those meds now. Okay, Steve. Okay, here's my story, Steve. Okay, let me take you back to the late 70s. I would have been 8 years old then, so I'll be 51 this year. This is farming land, Steve. There are large woodlands here too, and small ones. So the small wood and grass field in between the wood and row of 6 houses, nothing else there apart from 3 farms around us. The local village is around 3 miles, and the main road, please not say, only you know. Okay, it is called blank, blank, blank. Don't share this part. We're a small community, 50 miles. We're a small bang, 50 miles either way. I was 8, and the other kids from the other 4 houses, we used to go play in that wood, never had no issues making swings, tree huts, a fire, sit around it as kids, talking about life in general, and that shit the kids my age back then did. No smartphones, recorded back then. My dad worked at the local farm. One of them said, so did I. Okay, this is a little tough to read, buddy. Sorry, man. Make sure you proofread next time, all right? And read it to yourself out loud. Let's do that sentence one more. That's a big sentence. My dad worked at the local farm, one of them, and so did I till I left school. The other kids, 2, were 2 years older than me, and 2 were 7 and 6-ish. Playing in that wood in the summer's wreck, but I'd say we only played in the first half of that wood, Steve. Now, Steve, I'll share my location with you so you can look up the area on Google Earth. But this for your eyes only. Okay, name where we stayed was called not owned by the farm. Oh man, I gotta get onto this email. When you guys email me, if you don't want something shared, don't type it. All right, it'll help me read smoother to the people. I stayed at number 3 with my older brother and younger sister. My dad never knew our mom. She left Dad with us one day, never heard or seen her again. Not because Dad was bad, etc. The opposite, Steve. 2 darn good people have told me all my life she'd been seeing a guy, a trucker, and was gone. No birthdays card, not even while I was fighting for my life in hospital in an induced coma for weeks. Any good riddance to that bad shot, she guessed. Okay, I can't. This is really hard to read, man. I'm going to try to salvage this one more time. Now, this is a bit of wood. It is not thick. Wreck. You keep saying R-E-C, wreck. Here's how the sentence goes. Now, this is a bit of wood. This is not thick. Wreck. It had trees, some really big Scots, pine, and oak, beech, and Sitka spruce. The forest floor was all leaves, and the weeds were well on their way, as was the forest trees. It was summer, so that's the way it was, that whole 10 to 15 acre thinned out mixed woodland. So we were looking down at this stream that was, maybe easy 10 inches wide at the Backmere Burn. Okay, can't do it. Okay, let's try this one. Alright, so I just tried to read an email from Scotland. All through the email was very poor punctuation, and all through the email was as well request for me to not share this part, only for me. That makes me pause, try to skip through to where you finish. It was absolutely difficult to read, so I gave up. Sorry. It's from Scotland. If you want to try again and proofread it before you send it to me, that'll work. But I just couldn't do it, man. Sorry. Steve, thanks for your devotion to humanity. Steve, thanks for your devotion to humanity concerning this topic. Hopefully it's helping those in need. I personally have a little different way of looking at life. How many times he said if that mature grizzly's going to hunt you and wants to kill you, there's not much you're going to be able to do about it. Well, a little about me. I'm retired military. You name it, I've probably been there. Victoria Bay, BC, aircraft carrier, I've been there. I'm from the deep south. I lived in these woods all my life. I'm 60 now and fixing to retire a second time for good. But about 5 years ago, my 2 beagles and my walker dog were raising hell, and I was working on one of my trucks with the hood up. After about 5 minutes, I got tired of them barking, and I found it odd they would only go about halfway down my yard. My front yard is 4 acres fenced. I reached up and lowered the hood to see one of these things standing there looking at the dogs. The second I lowered the hood, it looked directly at me immediately. It wheeled to the right, threw out both arms, jumped straight in that direction, hit the ground on all fours, and shot out of there. With the only explanation I describe is it looking like something out of one of those Van Helsing werewolf movies. The speed looked computer animated. Crazy speed, never seen anything like it. So I tell my buddy, ask him had he heard anything from anyone about the problems with black bear in the area. He said no. I told him the story. He said, "You busy in the morning?" I said no. He said, "Let's meet at 6. He wanted to look into something." So we meet. Go 4 to 5 miles back on the same creek. We figured this thing was traveling and heard a real loud whoop roughly 600 yards away. He tells me to ease forward. He tells me to ease toward the sound, and about 450 yards into my movement, my buddy signals me. I stop, look back, and he directs me to look to my right, about 60 yards, this same critter I saw in front of my house. There he was again. He had stepped out from a thicket of palmetto. He stood about 8 to 9 feet tall, was probably 800 pounds if not more, looking at me and looking at my buddy. I was in awe. I could see his eyes, the sun shining off the brown leathery skin on his face. We stood there for what felt like 5 minutes, and all of a sudden he took 2 paces backwards, wheeled to the right, threw his arms out, and hit the ground on all fours, hauling ass again. Now that's twice I've seen the same movement. My buddy got pissed at me, because come to find out, he had known about these things for a long time, and he knew it was the female that had whoop, and I was heading in her direction, and the big boy stepped out. I said, "What are you pissed about?" He said if I'd kept going, we would have got some kind of a reaction out of the big male. I looked at him like, "You're a crazy son of a bitch," and we ended the day. Since then, I've heard the female whoop and the big male respond back in a guttural roar, but I've never seen the male. But I leave for work around 2:45 in the morning, and twice I've caught one about 5:10 petting my jack donkey inside the pasture, usually where I set his feed bucket. I've seen the same on the far side of that pasture petting my jack, and once out by the road, I had no idea he was standing by the fence petting my jack, and he ran between me and the gate and the truck back into the woods, almost like it's a game. The hair stood up on the back of my neck that morning. It's pitch dark out, and there I am closing the gate. He's thrown the lid off my horse feed, and I went outside only to see nothing, but I live so rural I can hear his flat feet hitting the ground. I've got hair samples from him because the young one, I figured to be the son, jumps my front gate and brushed up against one of the telephone poles. I put in a clean bag with tweezers, but probably won't ever do anything with it. And the last time I've seen whatever they are, I came home from work, was closing my gate, looking down into the woods, and I've got one standing next to a palmetto palm looking directly at me. So I stand there and I wave at it, and it doesn't move. I guess they think you don't see them, but behind the palmetto I could see movement, almost like this was his son, almost like this was the son. And he had brought his mom to check me out, because the one's face was as white as my wife's face, with white or grayish hair. And what was moving to that one's left is only speculation. But I can tell you this, if they wanted to hurt me, they could, but they don't. They're just curious. I don't seek them out. And I know that I know, and they know I know they exist. We somewhat live together. I consider it one of the amazing things I've ever witnessed, and they know I'd never hurt them. They watch how you interact with your animals. So I've somewhat earned their trust, and to me that's how you gotta look at it. If that grizzly's gonna get you, your number's up. R/Rob, Florida. P.S. If you need, I can be contacted by you and only you. And other than that, I would give out my whereabouts. And other than that, I won't give out my whereabouts because nothing good will come out of that. Wow. Rob, I appreciate that. And you're right about the hair. You know, David Plyta, Scott Carpenter, Rich Germeau, handful of other people, they obtained over 100 DNA samples already. It's been done over 100 times, right? The results are all the same, and the scientific community is absolutely not going to ever acknowledge that fact. Who cares? Kick them aside, move forward. That's some pretty interesting stuff, and you are very fortunate to be witnessing all those visuals too, right? Thank God they're being kind to your animals and your home. They're not blasting the side of your house or throwing rocks at you or killing your animals. That's good. Or taking off with your feed. It must be one amazing thing to, as an example, see that look into the face of that female one. And then seeing something throw down on all fours that big and move like it's computer animated, that would scare the shit out of anybody. I'm not craving seeing that. I don't need to see it. But what I do need is I need everybody to get it off their chest and share it. And you can see by now everybody's giving the credibility back to themselves, right? Everybody's supporting each other. And there's so many people here, is absolutely ridiculous. There's 6.5 million views per month on this channel and the hunting angling channel combined. 6.5 million people are viewing all this. People are curious, people want to know, and people are trusting people here. People are trusting each other here, right? People from all wakes of life are here, shoulder to shoulder, sharing information and being friendly with each other. The way it should be across the globe, right? You gotta wonder sometimes how much hatred is being intentionally spread amongst us from the people, the narcissists who want to control. It's a sad thing to see clearly. But anyway, thanks again for that email, man. If you got any more you want to share up later on, you just keep sharing away and I'll share whatever you got, all right? And if you don't want me to share something, I won't share it. But anyway, I should probably have enough ticks on me by now. I should probably get my butt out of here and get going. I got a ways to go yet. I'm going to show you some more country before it gets dark.